Hey, it's me, Shay, and this is my home practice, again, in my weird outfit. Today I want to talk about Cobra versus upward facing dog. Not that it should be a this versus that kind of thing, but I just kind of want to show you the difference and why they're different. So we're going to start on our bellies, or prone. Okay, now I simply just want you to prop yourselves up onto your forearms for a second. And what I note a lot especially when people come into Cobra pose for the first time, and let's be honest, sometimes people that have been practicing for a long time, they just don't have great form with this stuff. They just go too far, honestly. Like, low back starts hurting. Why? Because we have gone too far. And usually, in the case of Cobra, repeating it a lot, and then therefore, over time, getting just like back strain. And that's not what our practice should be. So I want us to think about, rather than going super far in the pose, making sure that the stuff that's doing the pose is working and it's engaged, okay? So I actually want you to start all the way down on your belly. And I want you to just kind of take your hands close to your rib cage, right? Kind of just framing your chest. And I even like to turn my fingers out a little bit to give my shoulders a little bit more room, okay? So just a little turn out of the fingers, a little hug in of those elbows, okay? Now, I don't want you to just think about using the arms to lift the chest. I don't just want this to be like a leveraged situation. I want the arms to help the back bend. So even notice, like here, my low back is like, nope. Over time, this is gonna suck, right? I'm gonna not be a happy camper. So I wanna make sure that like what is lifting me into this Cobra is engaged, okay? And it's not going to be a very ego-friendly situation. You're just going to be like, this is not impressive looking. And it's not, and that's not the point, right? We have to remind ourselves when it comes to our yoga practice, it's not about how it looks, it's about how it feels, okay? So I want you to come all the way down, right? Same thing. Elbows hug in, hands are just like barely on the floor, okay? And I want you to have this like together motion of the shoulders, right? The shoulders start to pull themselves together, right? And then keep that, and then pull the shoulders down away from your ears, almost like you could make your neck grow longer, okay? Now keep all of that. Press the front of your hips down into the floor, right? Like you're pressing into a solid surface that the floor is. Press the tops of your toes down, and then with your back, with the strength of those muscles that just got started working, use those to lift. Notice, not really using my hands yet. My hands are not really on the floor. They're just kind of hovering there. Elbows are hugging in. This is a Cobra that has a really good frame, has a really good base. Now we start to use the hands to help. We keep the elbows bent a moderate amount. They stay hugged in. And then once the low back is like, right? You don't go further than that, right? You make sure that that stuff stays protected. It's not just the low back that's moving, it's the entire back body working. Awesome. And then you'll release that. If you weren't breathing, you'll return to breath. You might even wiggle the hips a little right to left. Okay, so that's Cobra. Oftentimes people get updog and Cobra confused, right? Because they think Cobra arms are supposed to be straight. You're supposed to be in like this really deep back bend here. Oh, even doing that twice or a couple times here just does not feel good on my back. So reminder, Cobra, you are not going super far. It's way more about the back of the body's engagement to lift the front, okay? Now, when it comes to upward facing dog, I actually like to start from plank pose or start from a tabletop position, not on my belly, okay? Because the idea is I don't really want the thighs to be on the floor when I'm doing this, right? I kind of want the thighs and the knees to be lifted, and I want my arms to be more straight here, okay? So I'll start from a plank, or we'll start from tabletop, and if you feel really low, you can always take blocks or even like high, thick books under your hands to make this a little more accessible, or sometimes even up on like a chair and you can just be here, right? Like a lot more accessible. So hands are in tabletop or any other alternative, okay? Keep the hands pressing, keep the chest lifting, okay? And then as I start to let the front of my hips fall forward toward the heels of my hands, I also start to lift the chest, right? And just what I was doing in Cobra pose, where I was pressing the front of my hips forward and down, I kind of want to feel that same action in my upward facing dog. I'm just a little more upright, right? So as I start to fall forward and down, the chest keeps lifting. And then same action, shoulder blades hug together, shoulder blades pulled down, and I feel like I'm growing my head and neck from there, slightly making a double chin. And then possibly also pressing so much into the tops of the toes that the knees lift too. Great. And then for me, that feels like a full body thing. And that's what you want pretty much every pose that you do to be. A full body situation, not just like your low back screaming at you later. This stuff wants to be integrative. The hips, the spine, the body wants to work together. And the more we can let it, I think the happier of a practice you'll have. So I hope that stuff helps. It helped me to enjoy my practice more. So keep coming back. Have a great rest of your day. See you later.